Vashon Brown with the Midday News. A special welcome if you're watching on onespotmedia.com. Murder charges have been laid against three relatives of Tamara Geddes, the woman who was shot last month in the presence of her daughter in the community of Reserve in Falmouth. The two women and a teenager have also been charged with conspiracy. They are 39-year-old Nadine Geddes, sister of the deceased, her niece, 21-year-old Shanice Ruddock, and another niece who is 14 years old. The mother and her two daughters were taken into custody on Tuesday. Now, during questioning over 2 days, they allegedly confessed to hiring a hitman to kill Miss Geddes. They are scheduled to appear in the Trelawney Parish Court on Wednesday. The police say two other persons implicated in the murder were arrested yesterday in Westmoreland. Miss Geddes, who was 36 years old, was robbed of money and cell phones during the attack at her house on June 19. It was reported that the man also demanded sex, which was refused. TVJ News understands that the women and Miss Geddes were embroiled in frequent disputes. JLP Deputy Leader and Local Government Minister Desmond McKenzie is confident that his administration will remain in power after the next general election. Mr. McKenzie was speaking at a function in Falmouth, Trelawney recently. There's talk that a general election could be called soon, and Desmond McKenzie is confident.
This country don't know to spell the word continuity politically. Well, I want to tell you that that word continuity will continue after the next election because nothing won't change in terms of the administration, Victor. I just want to tell you that one.
The JLP Deputy Leader argues that his administration has been performing, but there's much more to do.
It is the intention of this administration, when we get into the next term of the government, to spend more. This administration of Andrew Holness have provided more funds for the destitute of this country, more than any other administration has done since 1944.
Mr. McKenzie was speaking at a function in Falmouth, Trelawney, where a shelter was officially opened for the homeless. Currently, there are more than 2,000 people living on the streets. Mr. McKenzie pointed out that the government has been working to reduce that number. He acknowledged that the largest population of street people live in his constituency in West Kingston.
It has reached a stage where some cold-hearted Jamaicans forget about their difficulties and would go there and beat them. You have some dirty man in this country who go there and engage some of the street people in sexual activities.
He says there are facilities for the homeless in St. Anne, Hanover, St. Mary and St. Elizabeth. Another is almost finished in St. Thomas. There is also a facility in Spanish Town, St. Catherine.
Because of the growing numbers of persons in the parish of St. Catherine, when we went out to do the feeding program during COVID-19, we found more than 200 people in Linstead alone, living on the streets, have nowhere to go. And I took a decision with the staff of the ministry, and we found some funds, and we are now building a brand new facility in Linstead that was never budgeted for.
West Portland MP and Cabinet Minister Darrell Vaz is demanding an apology from PNP candidate Valerie Nita Robertson for comments she made on her social media page. Mr. Vaz said Mrs. Nita Robertson maliciously and intentionally made defamatory statements aimed at him. Attorneys for Mr. Vaz have written to Mrs. Nita Robertson demanding that the offending publication be removed from social media site Twitter forthwith. The lawyers also demanded that she issue an apology for and retraction of the imputations contained in the tweet. They also want Mrs. Nita Robertson to pay damages in a sum to be agreed or assessed by the court. The lawyers say if the demands are not fulfilled, then they have been instructed to take further action, including suing for defamation and malicious falsehood. The Health Ministry has disclosed that a marketing company to which it awarded 2 contracts totaling more than $54 million, was the only entity considered on both occasions. Officials from the Health Ministry last evening faced a series of questions about the contracts given to Market Me. More in this report from Debian Wright.
The contracts to Market Me have been called into question since information about them was posted on social media earlier this week. Yesterday, Health Minister Dr. Christopher Tufton and Permanent Secretary in the Health Ministry, Dunstan Bryan, were drilled about them by members of the media during a COVID-19 virtual press conference. That's when Mr. Bryan revealed that Market Me had been granted 2 contracts, one in 2016 with payments totaling $15.9 million and another in 2019 for $38.9 million. He said the company was engaged in 2019 using the direct contracting method.
The justification for the award of contract using this methodology was it was a continuation of a previous contract that was awarded to Market Me in December of 2016, and therefore it was awarded using the direct contracting method.
Mr. Bryan revealed that the 2016 contract was also not put to tender.
It was an unsolicited proposal which required that a direct contracting was approved, and that approval was granted by the National Contracts Commission on December 2, 2016, and the value of that contract was approximately $15.9 million.
Questions were then raised about whether there were links between the company and Dr. Tufton.
Minister, a quick question to you. Do you have, Minister, any close affiliation with any of the directors of Market Me?
Yes, I have a great relationship with Market Me. I think they're an amazing company. They have delivered very effectively during my tenure as minister. And I have no difficulty in saying that they work hard, and I have enjoyed working with them.
Mr. Bryan said the firm was not recommended by Dr. Tufton.
The recommendation of Market Me is not a function of the minister recommending Market Me. You recall that I outlined that there was an initial unsolicited proposal, and then there was because that contract came to an end, there would be a follow-on contract because the work of the Jamaica Moves program continued. And so it wasn't a recommendation of the minister, it was a function of the preceding contract and then the follow-on contract, which was justified to the Public Procurement Commission and approved by the Public Procurement Commission.
The opposition People's National Party had also questioned whether due process was followed in the award of the contracts for work on the Jamaica Moves campaign. It has also demanded details on the development of the ministry's COVID-19 app.
And opposition spokesman on health, Dr. Maurice Guy, has raised concern about the contracts awarded to Market Me. Last night, Dr. Guy told our news center that the contracts were unsolicited.
I am particularly concerned about the fact that contracts were unsolicited, they're unsolicited proposals, and unless I'm incorrect, I think that in terms of how direct contracting can be done, there should not have been above a limit of $1.5 or $2 million. The Permanent Secretary indicated that the first contract was for $15.9 million in 2016 December, and that was an unsolicited proposal. Now, I find it a little curious that justification was presented to the then National Contracts Commission for them to approve that, and we would need to see the details of what was the justification for them to do that.
And we now take a break on the Midday News. We'll be right back. Please stay with us. Welcome back. Continuing the news now. Chief Medical Officer Dr. Jacqueline Bisesa McKenzie has reiterated the call for persons arriving in the country who are placed in home quarantine to respect the protocol. The call comes amidst reports that many of these persons are breaking the quarantine orders.
Ministry of Health really and truly does not have the kind of manpower to police everyone, and we really shouldn't have to police everyone, because we've been talking about this COVID-19 from January of this year. The public is sensitized and the public is aware. The public sees. They see the news reports, what's happening globally, and they understand the risk. They also know when their relatives, their friends have returned and are in their homes. They have a responsibility to ensure that these persons stay home and do not leave the house until the 14 days are finished.
There are some 18,000 persons currently in home quarantine. Most returned to the island since the opening of the airports last month. The Kingston and St. Andrew Municipal Corporation, KSAMC, says it will be setting up a committee to help deal with the applications for event permits. The corporation is bracing itself for an increase in applications following the partial reopening of the entertainment sector. More from Dwayne Anderson.
Party promoters got their wish this week when the government announced it will reopen the entertainment sector. And some eyes are now fixed on the Kingston and St. Andrew Municipal Corporation, KSAMC. The corporation's approval is needed for some of the permits needed to stage a party in the corporate area. Kingston's Mayor Delroy Williams, at a KSAMC meeting Wednesday, accepted that a successful reopening of the entertainment industry will depend on them.
It is a municipality that takes into consideration all the issues of security and public health and all those other issues. The regulation is very clear, exit and traffic issues and so forth. So what the municipality does is makes itself abreast of these issues in making a decision.
For the mayor, no favoritism will be allowed in choosing who gets to stage a party. So to help ensure the process is fair, a committee is to be established.
For a special events license, which is coming to us on a weekly basis, we could not sit, we have to give ourselves the opportunity to be able to review these applications on a weekly basis. So this is a committee that will sit weekly to review. So in terms of laws, we are not doing anything differently from what we are doing. All we are doing is, in terms of internal control and accountability and transparency, we are moving the decision making for approving a license from an individual or two individuals to a committee of persons.
The restrictions on entertainment events are to be lifted for an initial 2-week period starting July 21. The events must be held at approved venues with a limit of 250 patrons and no more than 30 staff. The guidelines came after a shutdown of the sector due to COVID-19. Dwayne Anderson, TVJ News.
Tourism Minister Ed Bartlett says the Resilience Corridor on the South Coast will see more hotel employees returning to work. The corridor was officially opened on Wednesday. It runs from Parkers Beach in Clarendon to Nunparial Road in Grill. Mr. Bartlett was speaking at a handing over ceremony for a community centre in Portobello, St. James.
This will also make players in the industry participate in this important economic activity. So due to the nature of the virus and the uncertainty around the world, the information which change as we progress, and this is an important point to consider as we try to manage this virus and to manage the risk that we are now responsible for dealing with in a society of uncertainty.
Mr. Bartlett said it is important for the workers to get back the jobs lost during the pandemic.
The jobs are coming back. Yesterday we opened the South Coast and we brought on another 5,000 or so workers to the 15 to 20,000 that we had before. And on the 21st we will open the attractions and that will bring in another layer of workers, perhaps another 5,000 or 6,000. And so slowly we bring back the workers.
Scrapped motor vehicles and parts were on Wednesday found in a woodland area of Orocabessa in St. Mary. The police team on special operation were investigating the theft of goats from Comma District when they made the discovery. 12 motor vehicles were found. No arrests have been made in connection with the incident. And the time now for sports, we go to cricket. Well, despite a 5-wicket haul from Roston Chase, England were able to post a formidable 469 for 9, declared in their first innings against the West Indies on day 2 of the second test at Old Trafford in Manchester. England declared in the post-tea session after resuming on 207 for 3. They were led by a 260-run 4th-wicket stand between Dom Sibley and Ben Stokes, who both made centuries. Sibley carried on to 120 from his overnight 86, while Stokes made 176 after resuming on 59. Joss Butler also made 40 as Chase, with 5, took his second 5-wicket haul in tests. Kemar Roach also took 2 for 58, while there was a wicket each for Azari Joseph and captain Jason Holder. The West Indies were yet to begin their first innings reply at sports time. The Caribbean side leads the 3-match series 1-0. And that's the Midday News. I'm Vashon Brown. Join us at 7 for Primetime News Package. On behalf of the news, sports and production teams, have a good afternoon and have a great week.